Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If you're getting a sense of deja vu about today's video, it's probably not misplaced. You probably watched this one a couple of weeks ago. Now, I admitted in that video, and I've admitted it before, that I'm a little bit late to the Seiko party, and I rather missed the boat on reviewing some of those key pieces, the SARB017 and the SARB035/033, two JDM models that are now discontinued. But just because they're discontinued doesn't mean to say that you can't buy them. There are still plenty of them available, albeit at slightly increased prices. Now, big thank you today to New South Wales local and subscriber Joe. He watched my Alpinist video, got in touch with me and offered me his SARB035 for review. I said, yes please, thank you very much Joe. He lives in the Hunter Valley, a couple of hours north of here. It's Sydney's local wine growing region. Popped the watch in the post. I collected it from the post office, excitedly unboxed it. It was still ticking, the time and date was still accurate, so I popped it on my wrist and went to work with a smile on my face. Thanks Joe for your generosity. So as noted, you can still buy the SARB033 and SARB035, but should you? Let's flip the camera and find out. So just as I did with the Alpinist video, let's start by talking about price, because obviously the price of this watch is going to be a fundamental factor in helping us answer the question today, should you buy one of these or not? Discontinued it may be, but you can still pick up this SARB035 all day long on Amazon.com for around $440, $450 US. I will leave a link to that one in the description of the video below. As always, prices on eBay remarkably similar, around the $440, $450 US. Now, from memory, I think that is about 50% more than these watches cost before they were discontinued. I think they were around the $300 US. I had one of these bad boys in my eBay cart earlier on this year. They were doing a 10% discount special, about 350 Aussie, and to be honest, I'm still kicking myself a little bit for not pulling the trigger. I guess I just hadn't had enough beer on the night. Alright, so what are we going to do with this one today? Well, obviously we're going to give it the full treatment here. Dimensions and specifications, I've got a loom video for this one, and as you can see, I'm going to do a bit of a strap fashion show with it. This one has 20mm lugs, so anything that comes into this house on 20mm lugs is subject to the Collared brothers, Venezia and Spoleto. I also have a nice colour matched purlon and a brand new box fresh vintage strap from Monkey Swag in the UK. I'll leave a link to that one in the description of the video also. As you will see, Joe's is a particularly well-loved example, shall we say, which I think is fantastic. These are great everyday watches. That's what they were designed for, and it's great to see someone who has clearly worn this one every day, regardless of environmental circumstances. So 38mm in diameter, that's how I measure it anyway, 11.5mm thick, 45mm lug tip to lug tip, so a very compact lug tip to lug tip. 20mm lug width as mentioned, tapering down to 18mm at the clasp, back up to 20 at the clasp. Joe and I clearly have got similar size wrists. I didn't have to resize this one when it arrived as noted. This one weighs in at 135 grams on the supplied bracelet. So 316L stainless steel case, crown, little bezel there, smooth bezel, and case back. Bracelet is also 316L stainless steel. We have got solid links with push pins. There's a kind of link and collar system, pin and collar system in those. Solid end links on this one today, and we have thankfully a proper milled clasp. Slightly small clasp there, but safety pushers on the side. As you can see, plenty of scratches. This one has certainly seen a little bit of action. Now, glass on this is sapphire, dead flat sapphire crystal. No anti-reflective undercoating on it though, or top coating. And on the back, we have a piece of Hardlex covering the movement. I'll pop a link, show you that one in just a second or two. Now, looking at the dial, the overall shape of the watch and its design cues, it really is quintessential Seiko, a kind of classic Seiko look. I was in a watch shop with this one yesterday browsing, and the assistant mistook it for a Grand Seiko. It is easy to see why. This one was known as the kind of baby Grand Seiko on a budget, and you can
So clearly see that when you compare it next to a Snowflake. A lot of the same design language in terms of the case shape, the size, the fit and so on, and the hands particularly, very similar to the ones there on the Snowflake. One of the key strengths of this SARB033 is that beautiful cream, kind of parchment off-white coloured dial. Now there is a sunburst effect on it. I'm not sure if that's going to show up on camera. Perhaps it will when I take this one outside later on, but a lovely, lovely creamy coloured dial. Handset's very interesting, Dauphine hands with a bit of lume in the middle of them. There's also a little ridge. There you go, you can see it just caught in the studio lights there. There's a little centre ridge running down the middle of them, a very nice touch indeed. And there's that lovely needle second hand, the little diamond at the back. You feel you could thread that one and do some sewing with it. Now applied baton indices all the way around. There's a double baton up at the 12. Little silver date frame around the date window at the 3 o'clock. Very simple, clean dial. Little Rehote chapter ring with a minute track and also a 1/5 of a minute track. They've also kept the branding minimal. Seiko logo applied there underneath the 12, and we've got automatic 23 jewel just printed on above the 6. And that cheeky little Japan 6R15 down there, advertising the movement in the back of this one. And there is that 6R15 beating away in the back of this one. Now all of these kind of mid to entry level Seiko movements are just versions of each other. This one is a souped up version of the 4Rs and therefore a souped up version of the 7S26. It hacks, it hand winds, it's got 23 joules, about a 50 to 52 hour power reserve. They are supposedly rugged, robust, reliable and accurate, as are the 4R little brothers. However, I've had slightly mixed experiences, to be honest, with the 6R. If you do a little bit of digging online, you can see that there's a few people think that there's a fundamental fault in these ones. I haven't actually run an accuracy report on this one. Somewhat remiss of me. I've had mixed results as noted. Joel's Monster was spot on, but I've had some of these running plus 25, minus 25, some that didn't really know what they were doing, but I can only assume that this one would be running within the stated tolerances, those being minus 25 to plus 15 seconds per day. Nice to see they've added a little bit of decoration there, some stripes, some Tokyo stripes perhaps on that rotor. Slightly hard to judge the standard of finishing on the case because this one is well used, but you've got a really nice shape to the case itself. Lovely kind of curve there across the mid case, and we've got clearly a number of different finishes. We've got a brush finish on the lug. There's a nice little step there transitioning into some polished side, and thankfully Seiko have decided to sign the crown on this one, the big Seiko S there also. Now the engraved crown there is not screw down, but Seiko advertised this SARB033 as having 100 meters of water resistance. Now that is the kind of swimming standard. I think I would be twitching a little bit taking a watch like this into the pool with me, but I guess you get over that one quite quickly. If this was going to be an all day, every day type watch for you, then I'm sure you would get used to getting it wet without a difficulty after the first couple of times anyway. The bracelet again has a couple of different finishes to it, brushed on top, polished on the side, but perhaps you can see there's a little polished edge. So again, there's a transition, a nice little detail when you go from the polished sides to the brushed top. However, that does mean to say, if you scratch it up like this one and you want to brush out those scratches, you're going to have to mask off those edges. It's not quite as easy a job to do if you want to maintain that little 3 different finishes there in the transition from edge to top. Seiko logo nicely pressed into the clasp there, and 2 very positive little pushes on the side. Nice action to engage this one. It is quite a short little clasp though, meaning there's only 1 little micro adjust. So really you've only got maybe 2 mil of adjustment in this one to make sure that it is a nice fit and comfortable on wrist. And I must say the lume on this watch performed beyond my expectations of it anyway. Now Seiko's proprietary Lumi Bright is well known for its brightness and for lasting a good length of time, but anecdotally I had no problems getting up in the middle of the night and still knowing exactly what the time was with this one. Again, just adding to this watch's all-round versatility as an everyday piece. So let's get it on wrist then. There is the watch sitting on top of my 7-inch wrist, and it wears very, very sweetly indeed. Nice set of dimensions for me. 38mm is a good size. I think this one is well known as suiting guys with slightly smaller wrists. I've got kind of average 7-inch wrist, but I reckon maybe 6.5, even down to 6 inches, this is still going to look pretty good on you because of that compact lug to lug at only 45, or more specifically about 44.5mm lug tip to lug tip. And zoomed out a little further for perspective, you really can see that lovely creamy colour on the dial. You're probably not going to notice the sunburst. I'll take it outside in a minute, see if we can catch it there. You're also going to notice the lack of AR coating on the Sapphire though. That lack of AR coating doesn't really hamper it once you take it out into the sunshine though. You do get the odd glare coming back off the kind of glossy dial and the glass, but it's not too bad. And there it is on wrist, just a lovely fit for me. Lovely curvature to that mid case as well, I think, being the kind of critical factor. Compact lug to lug and that lovely curve, meaning this one wears a treat. So let's do moans and niggles before moving on to the strap fashion show, because those two things are deeply connected. I guess my biggest moan about the SARB 035 is the bracelet. Not the bracelet as such. It's alright, it's comfortable enough. You know, finishing, I'm guessing, was pretty good in the first place, and the clasp is pretty decent, but it's the fit. I've never felt that the bracelet for this watch was actually designed for this watch. It has always looked like an afterthought. I mean, that is just plain weird looking. There's no attempt to get it to fit that way. There's that kind of half step on the case which doesn't really align with anything. It looks odd around the mid case, it just doesn't really fit. Perhaps you will permit me an analogy here. If you follow me on Instagram at Just One More Watch, you will, I'm sure, have noticed that I very proudly work at Sydney Opera House, a heritage listed masterpiece of human creative genius. To cut a very long story very short, the outside was designed by one man, but the inside was designed by another man. And there are a couple of points around the building that I feel you can really get a sense of that. They don't look cohesive. It's two parts of a building just randomly stuck together as best they could. And that's how I feel when I look at this Seiko standard bracelet stuck in there rather awkwardly between those rather pretty lugs. So let's get it on some straps instead. Let's start fairly conservative with the Collar Venezia. If you want to make that cream dial all the more noticeable, match it up with a black strap. Or rough it up a little bit with this Spoleto in rust brown. I do like this one. Perhaps a more formal brown though, perhaps a kind of croc or something, would make this one look like $1,000,000. And I know that pearl-on straps are very popular with these SARBs as well. If you've got a small wrist and you're buying this watch because of that, pearl-ons are a great alternative to NATO's. Only a single pass, very slim, and they help the watch conform to this smaller wrist very nicely indeed. I do like this one, the kind of cream on cream look. And there it is on that box fresh Monkey Swag vintage strap, already changing colour. That one looks like it'll age very interestingly indeed. This one a bit of a blank canvas in terms of strap matching opportunities because of the fairly neutral colour on the dial. So sapphire crystal, usable loom, great set of dimensions, Seiko brand, reasonable bracelet, and more than a whiff of grand snowflake about it. But should you buy one of these SARBs at the current overinflated discontinued prices? Oh, I'm just not sure. I think it's a great everyday watch, and if you picked up one of these before the price hike, then you're doing very well indeed. I can understand why Joe has worn this one so often. Clearly, it's a classic everyday watch if you have got perhaps slightly smaller wrists, or if you don't get a kick out of wearing a dive watch on your wrist every day, which is the other kind of all-day, everyday piece in my humble opinion. But let's return to eBay for just a second. Have a look at this one. This is another JDM. This is the Seiko SARB033 with a pale blue dial. They also do this one in an 045 with a dark blue dial. Now that is only $100 more than you're paying for this SARB at the discontinued overinflated prices. There used to be $250 between them, of course, but now there's only $100. I would be struggling to pay the money they're asking for one of these SARBs now when there are such strong competitors already out there from within Seiko's own stable and from within their JDM line of watches.
So there you have it, the SARB035. I really like this one. I can totally see why this watch had so much hype surrounding it when it was in production and when it went out of production. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. That bracelet looks like it belongs to a completely different watch, as is the way of some of these lower end Seikos. But I can totally see why you would have a long and happy relationship with one of these. If you weren't into dive watches, if you wanted something a little bit more formal, a little bit classier and dressier on your wrist, then this SARB 035 or its black dialed 033 brother would be fantastic and versatile pieces. But should you buy one at the currently inflated prices? If you bought yourself one of these before they were discontinued, if you got it at the previous price, good for you. I'm still kicking myself that I didn't buy one of these at the time. However, does that mean to say you should buy one at the currently inflated prices? Probably not. I don't think the watch justifies the price tag, and I think the competition for a new old stock SARB 033 and 035 really is the other JDM Seikos. I think you're getting a lot more watch for your money there. Maybe it's me being a meanie, being reluctant to cough up more money than I would have had to have 6 months ago, but hey, that's the market. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.